Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to this week's Productive Agent Podcast. My name is Tony Ruiz, and I'm the founder and host of the Productive Agent Podcast and Facebook group. Today, I'm joined by our managing broker of Texas of eXp, Mr. Alan Stewart.
Pleasure to be here.
Thanks for being here, man. I'm looking forward to picking your brain. Alan has been in the business for 30 years, and he is the managing broker of South and Rio Grande Valley here in Texas. He has been licensed in New York, Texas, New Mexico, and North Carolina, has 13 years of broker experience, so I'm sure you have all kinds of crazy stories that you could share with us. Yes. So maybe we'll get into some of that.
Sure.
Give us a little bit of background, where you're from. Tell us a little bit about what you did before real estate.
I'm originally from upstate New York, outside of Syracuse, a small town. I grew up mainly in a small town. Skaneateles, New York is one of the Finger Lakes up in the wine country area of upstate New York. I have my 2 degrees are from New York State University system. I have a degree in landscape architecture, 2-year associate's degree, and I have my business degree. Before getting into real estate, after my associate's degree, I ended up going to Mississippi State University for a semester, got on a work-study program through them, ended up in Dallas. Being straight from New York to Mississippi was a little bit of a cultural shock.
Yeah, big time.
And then ended up in Dallas working for North Haven Gardens. And when it came time to go back to Mississippi, I literally got on my knees and begged my supervisor, can I stay and keep this job? And so I ended up about 3 years doing landscaping with North Haven Gardens in Dallas in the early 80s. Then decided maybe needed to grow up and went back to New York, got my bachelor's degree in business. From there, I somehow, my brother was doing contracting, and then I got into contracting. And around 26 or 27 years old, I contracted and built my first custom home for some clients. And after that, got into doing replacement windows, a lot of different general remodeling, general contracting work. Got hooked up with a gentleman that owned a lot of nightclubs, which was fun. So we did a lot of renovating of nightclubs, which meant showing up at 2:00 in the morning when they closed. Somebody had destroyed something, so we would come in and fix their clubs up. But this whole time, with my mother, you had asked me earlier about how I got into real estate. My mother was always one that was going out to open houses, going to look at other houses. She was always looking for the next best house for our family to move into. So I would go along with her during a lot of those trips or to those showings, and was always, just always thought it was so cool that, you're here, we're with her realtor, but, the realtor just shows up, say, hey, can I see your house? Set an appointment, and, people were just letting strangers come into their house. And I always thought that was cool. I still love doing, being able to go into houses, see houses. I love all forms of architecture, forms of houses, and just love being able to go in and see them.
That's really cool, man. I just learned more stuff about you in that little spiel that you just gave. So that's really cool. So you got into real estate because you fell in love with looking at houses, being around it, doing the construction stuff as well, contracting stuff. So take us through, what year did you get licensed?
So I first got licensed. I first started the licensing procedure in New York probably in 1991, got licensed in 1992, and then worked there selling real estate with Coldwell Banker in Manlius, New York, which is kind of their Bernie-ish area, little Alamo Heights, kind of upscale community outside of Syracuse. Okay. And had my first broker, she was great. I gotta find her name. Her name has just left me, but she was probably 4'11", if that. But she took nothing off of anybody. She told you what she expected, how she wanted it done, and then she demanded it. I always tell people, like with their name tags, it was ingrained. It was just mandatory, because if she saw you out in public without your name tag, she'd fine you $5.
Okay.
And so she was just like that. Yeah. But it was a lot of fun to work under her. She was she was the first one who taught me, Alan, never make a phone call without a mirror on your desk because people can hear your smiles. And
I like that. That's a
and
good one.
so, we would do that. And like we were discussing earlier, that part of what we did back then is before do not call, we would, not only do floor duty, we'd be the agent on duty in the lobby at our offices, but we would also go to the offices 3 to 4 times a week at around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we would get out. The MLS was in books. And we would find out where the new listings were, and we would just use whatever, crisscross or whatever, and just start calling everybody in that neighborhood, right at dinner time, right when we knew they were coming home from work.
Yeah.
And we would start calling them and start engaging them on properties that were on the market in their area, things of interest to them, because to this day, people always want to know, what's my house worth?
Yeah.
What is going on in my neighborhood? And it always, just doing straight cold calls. But if you were able to say, hey, Mr. Smith, the house down at 126 Winding Way, that just came on the market. They're asking that, and they're going to be like, okay. And you're like, well, and start comparing it to what they have, and you start the conversation, and it's like with everything else we do today, it's still just making the connections and keeping up with it. It's a lot easier now with KV Core, CRMs. Back then, you were pretty much on pieces of paper, notebooks, but it still worked. It's still the same, same techniques and the same processes about developing and getting your business up and going.
I can't imagine New Yorkers always get that rap of like rude, and so I'm sure you got plenty of phone calls that were not pleasant, but you just kept dialing away.
No, you just, and even though, New Yorkers do have that reputation of being rude, but
short and to the point.
It's true when you're doing any phone calls and doing cold calls, is that you need to do your phone calls, you need to get practiced, and you need to be comfortable with what you're going to be talking about. That content of the information that you're trying to convey, the better you're at conveying it, the quicker that you're able to get your point across and bring value, the more that person's going to want to engage with you.
Yeah.
So, with other, I've worked with Marcus and Millichap here in San Antonio, and that most of what we do with Marcus and Millichap was doing cold calls, calling up investors, trying to engage them, and trying to determine if they were interested in selling the commercial properties they had, or were they interested in seeing any other properties that we might find that matched their investment criteria. And there again, you need to be able to get your point across quickly, concisely, and make it compelling enough that they're going to be able to listen to what you have to say. And if you don't do it, like with anything, it doesn't matter if you're calling a first-time home buyer or the CEO of some REIT, that if you don't come across quickly with benefit to them, value to them, they're going to be click, see it.
For sure.
And, but I'm a big proponent of doing cold calls. I'm sure a lot of you in San Antonio have gotten the care calls from me. I'll hammer them. And if there's an event coming up, I'm emailing you, I'm texting you, I'm slide dialing you, I'm reaching out. So don't be afraid to make cold calls and get good at doing it, and it will bring you business.
Yeah, I like what you said was make the connection, right? And I just left a JJ Guarena's training, and so many of us approach open houses with, what are you looking for? How many beds, how many baths, blah, blah, like Mr. Zillow, right? And it's like, no, it's all about making that connection with that person, and then then provide the value. Boom, they're going to want to do business with that person that makes a connection. So that's really cool. So it sounds like you were on a team at Coldwell Banker of some sort. Were y'all all individual agents?
We were all individual agents.
Okay.
And so that was 1992, and it's funny now when you look back, because everybody takes for granted buyer's representation.
Right.
Back then, it was the scariest thing for a lot of, especially the established agents. And I'm talking agents that had been selling property since 1960, and everybody was just, in their head, it was either you were the listing agent or you were a sub agent.
Yeah.
And now you're stepping out into the scary world of actually representing buyers. And so it was a different dynamics back then. And it really wasn't until about 95 when I came and got going in Texas that we really started to focus and set up the buyer's representation, get buyer's representation agreements, and getting that more of a mainstream. But it was back when I started with Caldwell. Like I was saying, that I was there the day they brought the first computers into the office. We had these big books that were delivered twice a week that were in the MLS, and it was interesting because you never know how things are going to change, because I was brand new real estate agent, and all of a sudden I had more knowledge and more skills to where real estate was going, because I had already owned my own computers since I think I got my first computers in '89, and the majority of the seasoned veterans in Caldwell Banker, they had never even touched a computer.
Right.
And now they're asked to go do searches. So guess who they brought on? So, hey, how do you search? You know, how do you get on the internet? How do you do this? So a little quid pro quo, and I got to learn off of them, do some. They treated me a little bit and took me under their wing a little bit because I could help them transition into the brave new world.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about how you built your business up. Obviously, you did the cold calling, you did those phone duties and stuff like that. Did you do anything else like open houses or anything on top of that?
I'm a big proponent of doing open houses. I tell a lot of the agents, the new agents that are coming in to eXp, that they're overwhelmed. They don't know where to go first. I tell them, get engaged with the eXp community. Get on workplace groups. And for the main thing with the workplace groups is to be able to find out what's happening. We have so many great agents with eXp in all the markets that are putting on events, putting on training. So I tell the agents to immerse yourself into that, get into that culture, and then start reaching out to the listing agents and to ask them to be able to, one, shadow them, be able to say, I see you're having an open house on Saturday or on Sunday. Do you mind if I stop by and see what you're doing? So even though you're brand new, kind of reach out and kind of, don't expect that an agent with a high dollar listing is just going to say, yes, sure, come on in, run this for the weekend. No, you're going to come in, be in a position where you're going to want to learn from them and learn how to do it right, and show that you're going to be capable of doing it. And once you get through that door, then the scariest part for all the agents happens. You're actually alone in a house doing an open house. And what I try to convey to the agents is just don't worry about it. You're going to screw up. We've all been there, said the stupidest things. And when you get when you said it, when the person you're talking to kind of does that dog, like, you're like, oh, okay. So, and then move on. But that's how you're going to learn. Mm-hmm. And is just by, just going out there and getting comfortable in your real estate skin and be able to talk to people and to be able to convey, for one, you want to convey your value, what value you're bringing to them. What are you going to be able to do for them, and how you're going to be able to do your real estate business not so much better than any other agent, but how you're going to tailor what you're doing to what that particular client wants and needs are.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think there's gold in that for sure. Because I did my very first open house 2 days after I got my license, and it was okay. And then my second one was on my birthday in 2019. And I had two people show up, one being my mom, and I realized that, I screwed up on the location. So I'm going to pick a better location. So yeah, it's a skill that we develop. And I know I'm better at it now because of all the things that I've learned along the way. I've done well and I've failed, and it's just, you get better at it. And it's, so get out there and work it, it's cool. So let's talk a little bit more about your time as a broker and how you can help agents be successful. What would you say that, why do the failure rate is a big deal in real estate? It's 90% or something crazy high like that. Why do you think most agents struggle?
Most agents, in my opinion, that they end up struggling is because a lot of them, and I wouldn't say this is 100% across the board, but a lot of them get too focused on the process, and they are always working under the assumption that in their own head that they don't know enough yet to get out there and start doing it. And what I tell them is that you will learn what you need to know to go and be able to do the deal. That's taught. How to, that's easy. How to fill out the forms, how to run KV Core, how to, do, the flyers and how to farm. But don't wait until you think you know everything to go out and do it. Like you said, 2 days after you're licensed, you're in an open house.
Right.
That's what you have to do. Get out there, start doing it, put your name tag on, go out into the public, and even though, friends and family can be some of the hardest people to work with, and to be able to, I should say, as far as them accepting you as now a professional real estate agent. But you got to get over, because if you can convince all your family and friends that I'm for real, I'm in this for the long haul, I am the person, you're going to be able to have no problem with anybody else. Everybody else is going to give you the benefit of the doubt. Your family's going to be like, what's Tony, Alan? No. No. I remember back when he was, no way. Yeah. I'm not giving him my house to sell, but you got to be able to go out and do it. And so, my other advice to brand new agents is don't wait until you have all the knowledge that you feel you need to go out and do it. Go out and fail. Go out and, work with your mentor, work with your sponsors, that's such great asset that we have with eXp is the culture that almost to an agent, we're out there to help other agents be able to get up and going. Ask those questions, and really my best advice is, just to sum it up, is just go do it.
Yeah.
We got 11 brokers in the state of Texas. We got sponsors. We got mentors. We got all our other great real estate eXp agents. So go out there and do it. And what I tell agents is, and this goes not only just for new agents, but all agents, is never say no. If somebody comes up to something, yes, we have to maintain our competency with what we can and stay in our lane and what we can do. But if someone comes up and says, hey, Alan, I got this 5-story building, office building, is there anything you can help me? Don't say, no, that's out of my, no, yes. I will find a way, refer it, find the commercial guys, find someone else to do it. And it doesn't, a luxury home. So don't be afraid to just say, yes, we at eXp will be able to help you, and we will find the right people, the right agents to be able to produce that, or to be able to sell that for you, or to procure that property for you. So, but, we have the assets here with eXp, so, take it on, work with experienced agents in that arena, and say yes.
Yeah, I like that. I said yes when you asked me to do that podcast thing, and I was like, never done that before, but figure it out. Say yes and figure it out, and then ask people for help. We're all willing to help. That's the unbelievable thing. I've been, everybody's like, oh, I'm scared to get in real estate. It's so competitive. I still don't feel like it's competitive because, I don't know. I just think of a mindset of abundance. There's enough business for everybody, as long as you work at it, and you figure it out. And, but eXp, man, everybody helps each other out.
Yes.
And, I've only been here 5 years now, but I've heard different things from different brokerages, and I'm sure you've experienced that as well. That's not quite like that at every brokerage.
No, and I won't go into naming names and throwing people. But no, I've worked, even here in San Antonio and in Bernie, I've worked with some killer agents that are, and you would all know them if I started naming their names, but they're focused on their business. It's a different culture because there's really, unlike eXp, there's really nothing in it for them to really step out and help other agents, where we have, maybe they're in your downline, or because, with eXp, the better all of the agents do, the better our stock's going to do. So that benefits everybody overall. Right. So, I've been in offices where, don't talk to me.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So you talked a little bit about it. Is there anything else that you can add if an agent is struggling right now? So, we're in this market, which we'll get to in a second, where everything has slowed down. Some agents are struggling with it. There's been quite a bit of mass exodus since really January of this year. A lot of agents, not renewing their licenses or whatever. Agents that are struggling right now, maybe they're new, maybe, they've been in the business a little bit. What would you say to kind of fire it back up and turn things around and really get things going?
Really just going back to basics and, making the calls, setting up your farming. Definitely, whether you use Chime, KV Core, Sync, it doesn't matter. The best CRM is the one that you use. Mm-hmm. Use it, get that set up, get the training on it, take the time to learn it. Reach out to your sphere of influence, and it doesn't matter where your sphere of influence is. It's, if you're new to Texas, what I tell agents is you left family somewhere. You have friends and family somewhere in this country. Make sure everybody you're doing real estate, because, you're in Texas, they may be in Ohio, and they got a friend looking to purchase a house in Ohio. You can get in on that chain as a referral agent.
Sure.
So you can step out and say, look, we got great eXp agents up in that area. Right. Let me call up, interview a few of them, see which ones would maybe be the best fit, and I'll send you a list of 3 to 5 names of agents. Bang, you're gonna get a referral off that.
Right.
So, referrals are such a great way to make money, and we sign all the referral agreements. We have some agents that are just killing it with referrals. Mm. And another thing is when we did that, regional rally March of last year, that one of the speakers, I think he was from Colorado, had the team lead, and I loved when he said, look, I bring these people on, I interview them, I bring them on my team, and I don't let them do a thing until they bring me their CRM, and it has 250 names in it. Mm. And I've brought that up and talked to other people about it, and I was at Build, and I was talking with some killers there, and they were like, 250, I want 5.
Yeah.
If you're coming on my team, you want me to help you, you get your CRM, and it is. And what they all say is like, break out your phone.
Yep.
Break out your family. You're going to be able to come up with 500 names, former coworkers. So, and it's going back to the basics, and what I mean by the basics there is making those connections and keeping those connections up and going.
Sure.
And I always bring up the analogy of, and it's happened to all of us, is you go to a reunion, you go to a family event, and all of a sudden you start hearing your cousin, your brother start talking how his neighbors just put his house on the market. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what, dude, say that, you didn't think to call me,
right?
But that's on us as agents. It's not on them. It's not their responsibility to call us. It's our responsibility to make sure that we are always right in their forethought of anything real estate related.
Yeah, for sure. I see a lot of agents, they post that like, oh, when your family member buys a house from another agent, and they get all upset. But again, obviously it hurts you a little bit, but it's like, wait a second, I should have been doing my job.
Yes,
I'm just staying forefront and like being present, and that probably wouldn't have happened. I talked about this briefly. I want you to kind of touch on it. Today's market, it's shifted. It's kind of at a standstill. Buyers are on one side. The sellers are not budging. Not a whole lot of things are really happening right now. Talk to us about why that is. Maybe what you foresee going forward for the rest of the year into 2024, based off your experience.
Going forward, only thing I can base on going forward is what I hear is that interest rates are going to go up. It's probably going to get a little more tight as we're going through mid of 2024. And we're experiencing a battle between the buyers and the sellers. And, the buyers are where the interest rates are going up, the home values are still 30% higher than they were before COVID. Some markets, they're 40% higher. And then you can watch the Fed and other experts in the real estate market. It's like, we can't justify these high prices. And as watching it over the last year, everybody's been predicting, well, the housing price is going to crash. The housing price is going to crash. But what we're not really taking fully into account is that we don't really have that inventory to be able to force the seller to actually start reducing their prices. So it's slower to correct, and just as we get to a correction point, something happens, and it seems like our overall inventory kind of shrinks again. And we're shrinking the number of buyers. It's, when I first moved to San Antonio in '93, a starter home back then was, I was working for Brookshire Homes, and our starter homes, we had starter homes at $68,000.
Oh, wow.
And even all the way up through, the mid 2000s, we still, you still had homes.
Yeah, mine was '09. I bought mine in '09, and it was like 141.
Yep.
And it was a Syntex build, brand new build, a good location, and I wish I held on to that.
Yep. But now you look at what's
it's easily 320 and up. That
our average right now in San Antonio, I think, is like 343, something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. In 2019, when I started, it was 230 something. Yeah, so it's a major difference.
Yep.
In just 4 or 5 years. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to watch.
And the other force that's really hindering the market right now is we had so many people that refinanced their homes. Myself and my wife being one of them, is that, we're below 3%.
Yeah.
We have, we live outside of Bernie. It's a 2-story. Our kids have long gone. And just, got to meet my grandson for the first time last week.
Oh,
so
congratulations.
Spent a week with that,
Yeah,
with
exciting.
little Niall. But there's really no incentive for us to sell, and we're not the only one. I talked with one of our agents that works primarily Fair Oaks Ranch, and she, when I was talking to her, she brought this up independently of me bringing it up, that there's, one, the people that would normally be looking to sell can't find anywhere to move. They're in a position that they've refinanced and their monthly payments are so low. It's like, why are we going to leave now?
Yep.
And to be able to move and find something that they would want to be happy with, to be possibly just be the last home purchase they have, it's going to take all the equity that they have sitting in the houses now to be able to downsize. Yeah. And downsizing has always been, okay, let's get smaller, keep a lower payment, and be able to access that equity that we built in our homes. And right now, that's
tough to do.
Very hard to do, especially with nothing to pick from.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we'll just have to wait and see.
Yep.
So talk to us a little bit about the scary part, right? Staying out of trouble. Some of the pitfalls that maybe agents fall into that you see. What are some things that agents can do to avoid getting into TREC jail, right?
TREC jail. So the main thing, and it's more and more on TREC's radar now, is practicing law without a license. So they are, if there is anything that comes close to touching a legal issue or legal opinion, I know some of you just kind of get frustrated sometimes when you come into the broker room or talk to a broker, and one of our first answers is going to be strongly suggest to your client that they seek the legal advice of a real estate attorney. But that's coming from where, even though on our TREC promulgated forms, we can get in trouble if we start interpreting or saying that somebody is in breach of contract or somebody's not in breach of contract, or that contract is now null and void. So if you come and you talk to me and pretty much the rest of the brokers, is when we start talking about that, we will phrase it, and I wish everybody would phrase it, that it could be interpreted that that person is in breach of contract. They may be in breach of contract, but the only way that's going to be determined is through the court of law and speaking with an attorney. So it's very important that we are not making definitive answers on the legality of contracts or certain rights or obligations that buyers and sellers may or may not have in that transaction. So, and as I always point out to all the agents is, especially if you have a client looking to terminate something, on that termination, there's in bold letters on all TREC forms, it's before signing, seek the advice of an attorney. So I'd say TREC puts that on the forms. So whenever you got somebody, tell them to do that. Get it in writing. Just, if you have a phone conversation, just send them an email. Just say, to reiterate, to go over what we just spoke about. This is what you would like me to do. And all they can just have them respond, yes, that is correct. So you just have it to cover yourself, because as we all know, buyers, sellers, our clients sometimes forget what we tell them.
Yeah.
And they're going to say, not all of them. We have great clients, but there are some that you need to prepare for that are totally going to forget everything that you told them and then claim that you didn't. So make sure you're not practicing law. Make sure you're not rendering anything that can be deemed as a legal opinion. Also remember, and it's hard to do because we are all, one of the things that we're all, I think, to an agent, is we're problem solvers. We want to help our clients, but we need to know that when the transaction is over. So that when the transaction is done and then problems start coming back to us, we need to, you need to really step back, be helpful, be courteous, do whatever you can, but just keep in mind, you don't want to get in the position where you are representing the buyer, now they're living in the house, and, there's something that came up that they're upset with the seller, and they're saying, okay, Jim, Judy, whoever, call the buyer's agent, call the seller, and so don't get involved in that. So, make sure, try to find, the connection so they can be contacting the person that they need, because we have so many agents that will get too involved in that. And if it starts going to litigation, then they can get wrapped up in that. So just make sure that, just keep in mind when that transaction's over, be helpful, produce anything that you need that's pertinent to what, but it's between the buyer and seller.
Got it.
And so, and then also that runs into when you're doing leasebacks, that is a landlord-tenant issue. So, make sure that, you kind of be helpful, but it's their issue. The transaction's over with, and don't get too involved in it, because then you can get wrapped up into it.
That's a good point. That makes me think of a transaction that I had at the end of last year, and it kind of finally wrapped up. Everything, all the dust cleared, but I was kind of involved in helping, and but yeah, I'm glad you point that out. But I could see how an agent can definitely get wrapped up in that, wanting to help, because that's our nature. And it's like, be careful there. Yeah, so good point. So
and when contracts terminate, don't. Always keep in mind with contracts and earnest money is we can't compel or force anybody to deliver earnest money. And consequently, on the flip side of that is we can't compel or force anybody to release earnest money.
Okay.
So don't think that there's some magic thing that we can do as a brokerage to get the other side to release the money. That comes down to, you need to refer them to an attorney to be able to see what their rights and options are under the contract. So that's another one that we see agents really getting involved too much with. It's tough. We want to be able to help solve it. We know our client, in a lot of circumstances, our client is 100% entitled to get it back. But there again, we can't say that, because then that could be, given an opinion on law. So, so you always have to be careful on how you're going about and doing that. So we can do what we can do, but at some point it's going to need to be, an attorney to be able to draft a demand letter or step in to be able to, help rectify the situation.
Oh, cool. Any other cool pointers or stories that you want to share?
One that I just was reminded of that came up the other day is any of y'all out there that deal with mud districts.
Okay.
The notice of the mud district must be delivered to the buyer before the contract is signed.
Uh-huh.
So keep that in mind. I just was reminded of that just the other day.
Yeah, I'm sure we could sit here all day and just talk about all these things that have popped up. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing some of these stories with us. If anybody wants to get a hold of you or ask you any questions, best way is workplace chat, right?
Workplace
eXp
chat.
Agents, obviously, to get into workplace chat, hit up Alan Stewart. And then obviously the broker room, the brokers are always on call. It's so fast. It blows my mind every single time. Another way, if you're not eXp, email. What's your email again?
It's alan.stewart@exprealty.net.
.net. All right, very good. So yeah, this guy knows almost all the answers, right? There's always something new. There's like, you know, and that's what's fun about real estate for me is like they're all kind of the same transaction, but every transaction is different.
Yes.
Everyone's like slightly different, you know, and then you have to like a really difficult contract, and then the next one's really easy, and it's kind of a give and take. But I really appreciate you joining it, and lots of great information, lots of nuggets there that we'll get out and share. Hopefully you enjoyed it, guys. If you did, share the show with a friend, leave us a review, give us a rating. That really helps grow the show as well. And you can join our private Facebook group, The Productive Agent. We have a happy hour coming up on the 31st. Maybe we'll see Mr. Alan Stewart out. And you can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And we thank you for joining us today. Now let's get out there and go produce.